While the university is commonly understood to be a place where different knowledge systems enter into dialogue and debate, the institutional structures of the university tend to acculturate and conscript different kinds of knowledge into their own existing categories for what can be known, how knowledge can be organized, and what forms of knowledge are legitimate and credible. The Different Knowing Speaker Series and interviews address the question of if and how the university can be a place of different knowings, different epistemologies, different knowledges.
That had reminded us of our older battles, and especially the Cheyenne language, of doing a dictionary, which was supposed to be required for first and second and third graders, and it's supposed to be an English Cheyenne dictionary. But no one thought that alphabetizing something was a good way of organizing knowledge, but it was the way the Eurocentric teachers and principals and educators said we have to do it. And we hit a profound point at one time with the linguists who were doing all this. And they said, well, how come a bird is sipchij and a rattlesnake is sipsquaw? So words are the same, but when you put it in alphabetical order, they said, what's the relation? They all have the same root word. So how does that happen? And we didn't have the slightest idea. We were taught this. We were parrots. We did the naming process just like our elders and families taught us, and that's all there was to it. So we had to go ask the elders, and the elders thought it was a delightfully delicious question, and carried on for a long time with the linguist, but wouldn't tell them the answer, saying that, well, you're a linguist, you tell us what you think the difference is. And we knew that, when we go to elder and ask them a question, the first thing they want to know is, why do you want to know this? You have to tell them why you want to know, because that's our rituals of knowledge, is that what's asking this question and who's asking this question, and many times the answer really is just a learning spirit that it comes upon you and you get curious about something. But finally we went to a major linguistic conference where all the anthropologists and linguists were there, and the elder said that he would explain the difference between the word bird and the word rattlesnake and what they had in common. But he only wanted to do it once, and he was an old man. He didn't want to repeat it 100 times, so he'd do it at this linguistic conference, and we knew that he was setting up the linguists. So, that's the way it transpired. And it comes down to, he says, I've been asked to address this question by our linguist about the relationship between the word of bird, which is sisip, and a rattlesnake, sisip squaw. And he says they want to know what's the relationship to it. And he says they've been very creative in trying to develop relationships, but they haven't got close. He said the whole word sisip, the whole root word, refers not to any thing that exists in your mind. It exists from observation, and that's that when a bird walks on the earth, which is unusual for birds, they make this kind of movement on the earth. And he says, and that's why we call them sisip, is because that's their movement on earth. The earth is the reference point for the knowledge. And he says, and when you look at a rattlesnake, and all snakes in general, but a rattlesnake in particular, it makes the same kind of movement on the earth, but it does it much lower. And so that's why you have the squaw at the end of sip, sip, squaw, just says it's right against the earth, not on top of it, like a bird. And he said, but there's no real word for that movement, that the concept is a movement, it's not a noun. And that's the original insights that we started thinking that everything in our language is like that. It's reference to motion and movement, and it's not, the object is not defined by any artificial name, it's defined by the movement. So if you see the movement and duplicate it in our language, that you'll know exactly what the things are doing. And that's the relationship of most indigenous language when they start thinking about it, that it's all about motion. And we don't have, in this generation, good categories to talk about our language. We haven't developed an external language of experts to say why we do certain things in different indigenous languages. So generally we just use the English concept of verb, action orientated or movement, to characterize how our language is set. Now linguists have much more complex way of saying it, but no one can spell it and very few want to talk like that about the language. But it's a different structure of knowing that's embedded in the language that's related to a deeper cosmology, that a knowledge system that literally goes to the center of the earth and to the stars, but the reference point is the earth and what lives in the earth lodge in all of our languages and how things are conducted.